Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Welcome back to the On Podcast. We've been joined again by our beloved Imam, Tom Facchine, and he's reaching out to us from his car because he's late to the airport, and obviously we had to stop him midway. And first we had to waste some time before, and now we're going to waste some time with this. Brother Imam, how are you doing? Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Alhamdulillah. Doing well given the circumstances. Alhamdulillah. We thank Allah for everything.
It's usually it's us here in Pakistan are worried about Indian Muslims, or Kashmiri Muslims, or Muslims in Palestine. But now, right now, I was very scared for Sami Hamdi and then the Care Foundation and things that have been happening in Michigan and Dearborn. And we're seeing all the visuals. I thought it was isolated initially at the time of the New York protest that this is isolated to students and people with visas, but people like you, white converts, native, again, I'm saying that very loosely, native converts, and even second or third generation immigrants, you would assume that they are Roman citizens now, they're American citizens and thus, therefore, accorded all of their rights. But for the first time in my life, and I'm very sad to say this, I'm very worried about American Muslims in Islam. How is everybody doing?
Yeah, it's definitely a scary time. Inshallah, hopefully the antagonism will force us to come together upon a principled stance and realize something that I've been trying to communicate, rather, to the Muslim community here. Something I've been saying to the community post October 7th is that, this is not going to go away. The antagonism that we face, the criminalization that we face is not going to go away by hiding, by appeasing, by just trying to, put on a smiley face and do everything that everybody wants us to do, because the antagonism that we're facing is not good faith antagonism. It's not just bigots. It's not people that just don't know any better. This is a coordinated smear campaign, a coordinated propaganda from Israel. And it's been working for decades to dehumanize Muslims and to criminalize anybody who is going to have any solidarity in any way whatsoever with the people of Palestine. So I think after 9/11, we learned that, after 9/11, much of the community, because of that pressure and antagonism, I don't want to say went into hiding, but we didn't have the strategies, we didn't have the maybe the attitude, we didn't have the institutions to push back. And we're still dealing with that same dynamic now because of our inability to outmaneuver them. So that's really what we're facing. That this is something that's going to take confrontation. It's going to take political power and actually confronting it. If you pay very close attention to what the Zionists do, they're always pushing the limit. They're always pushing the envelope to try to criminalize further or to create more levers to punish Muslims. I'll give a quick example. That earlier this year in September, I believe it was Mast, the congressman from Florida, introduced a bill into the Congress that would have given Mark Rubio the legal right to strip people of their citizenship and passport for basically foreign policy issues. If they, supposedly it was if there was quote unquote material support for a foreign terrorist organization. But at the same time, the Zionists are trying to indefinitely expand what it means to materially support a foreign terrorist organization. So it used to mean, like in the 80s, that if somebody sends money to a fighter, right, that is part of one of these groups, then that is illegal. And that kind of makes a little bit of sense. But now what it is that if you even say anything, or if you raise money for a charity, or if you have a speech that that even recognizes the humanity of some people who are resisting against occupation, then they are attempting to maneuver such that that will be considered material support for terrorism. So if you put these two things together, the Zionist strategy is very clear. They're trying to create a scenario in which nobody can say a word in support of Palestine, or else you're going to be considered a terrorist and you're going to be deported. You're going to have your citizenship removed and left. Thankfully, there was enough blowback and people were up in arms over this possibility that they retracted that provision from the bill. So the bill still is in Congress, but that particular provision is gone. But it just goes to show you that they are going to continue to put their foot on the gas and pressure and press and press and press. Whatever they can get away with, they will do it. And so it's not going to go away if we just, go and do dawah door to door like the Tablighi Jama'ah and hand out biryani and things like that. It's not going to be enough. We have to organize ourselves. We have to bring lawsuits. We have to work on how to shape law. We have to expose that these forces are not homegrown, that they are actually like doing the bidding of Israel, which is a foreign nation that has infiltrated and occupies a lot of that has a disproportionate power over American political system. So this is what the moment calls for, and this is the challenge that we face.
Very well put, Jazakallah, Imam. A lot of people tend to not realize, because we think when, we're not malicious, we don't have these designs against other communities and other peoples. We assume that, other peoples are not going to act like this way. But the way
Correct.
that the Zionists are organized in a malicious sort of campaign, a disingenuous and malicious campaign against Islam, it's been decades now in the making, since the war on terror, through film, through TV, through music, through entertainment, through popular culture. It's always been about dehumanizing Muslims, Arabs in particular, but Muslims in general, obviously.
सऊदी अरेबिया से 5,000 फकीर डिपोर्ट कर दिए गए। ये इंडस्ट्री है बेगरी की। जी हाँ, आपने सही सुना, भीख मांगने की इंडस्ट्री। ये बहुत फल फूल चुकी है हमारे मुल्क के पाकिस्तान में और बहुत एक तकड़ी इंडस्ट्री बन चुकी है। सरकारी आदादो शुमार के मुताबिक 2 करोड़ 20 लाख लोग इससे मुंसलिक हैं। अब ये इंडस्ट्री हमारी जो है इंटरनेशनल लेवल पे भी ऑपरेट कर रही है। सऊदी अरेबिया से हमें बड़ी हजीमत हुई जब उन्होंने रिक्वेस्ट की कि खुदा का वास्ता है कि अपने भिखारियों को हमारे मुल्क में मत भेजें। एक पाकिस्तानी भीख मांगते हुए जो पकड़ा गया और डिपोर्ट हुआ, आप बताएं भला किस मुल्क से हुआ होगा? नहीं, इथोपिया से। इथोपिया जहां भूख, नंग और अफलास है, हम ये नहीं जानते कि हम ये नहीं रियलाइज करते कि हम कितने बड़े जुर्म को परवरिश कर रहे हैं। कतन मत सोचें कि ये जो 10 रुपए आप हर आने वाले फकीर को देते हैं, ये आपके रिज़्क में बरकत और फरावानी का बायस होगी, कतन नहीं होगी।
पूरी वीडियो देखने के लिए हमारी वेबसाइट पे जाएं, eonpodcast.com पे, और मैट्रिक्स की सब्सक्रिप्शन ले लें। सिर्फ 3,000 रुपए की बात है। See you there, inshallah. There's a thing you mentioned, that we're not organized and we don't have the right ways of going about it. I also think that in the past we didn't have the technology to go about it. I think the internet has allowed Muslims, like you and I wouldn't be having this conversation. There'd be like a few hours worth of precursor conversation for us to get on the same wavelength. You'd have to explain to me what's going on in America. I would then have to understand it, marshal resources, both intellectual as well as otherwise, and then be able to give my input and help my Muslim brothers and sisters in America. But now it's instantaneous. Muslims in Pakistan, India, wherever, can understand exactly what you're going through, and vice versa. So technology is a component that has changed, and I would like to hear what you think about how this technology can enable us, because it clearly has. You have a streamer, like Sneeko, talking to some guy like Nick Fuentes, talking to some guy like Mohammed Hijab, and it's like a big gobbledygook of Muslims and Christians and converts and streamers. And those people have much more reach and effectiveness than maybe even an organized APEC or an organized, ADL or whatever. The second thing I wanted to ask you after the technology aspect was, don't you think they overplay their hand? Like, in essence, in our sort of simplicity and our earnest sort of goodness, the Muslim community, the way that it is in America and all over the world, in that I wouldn't like to frame it like this, but we sort of come out the sympathetic community compared to the Zionists being like rabid, attacking every single individual, getting people disbarred, getting professors, kicked out, people losing their citizenships or their visas. The white, black, just the quote unquote historic American community, non-immigrant American community, sees that and is like, this is kind of nuts and un-American.
Right.
Isn't that like wouldn't a proactive approach then also put us in the category under fire of something as like an active? Because they do try to push that on us, like, oh, it's Qatar and oh, it's this, that, and the other. We don't want to appear as this kind of conniving sort of lobby group that can, rally Congress, and because we can't really, in earnest. And I'm not showing our powerlessness. I'm just showing that we're just a kind of a feckless, sweet little community that wants to feed people biryani.
Yeah, no, those are two great points. So, and they're related. So when it comes to technology, absolutely. The Zionist narrative, which is completely based off of lies and fabrications, requires control of the narrative and control of the media. And certainly, you can't imagine the erosion of Israeli credibility without the democratization of media and the rise of social media in particular. That social media is extremely important, and they know it's important. They've called it whatever they call it, the eighth front, and you have Netanyahu paying influencers $7,000 per post. They understand how important it is. They understand that when they maneuver to get TikTok purchased. They understand how important it is when they're consolidating their holdings over even the legacy media, such as with CBS. Barry Weiss now running CBS as editor-in-chief, and other, Larry Ellison and his son David Ellison attempting to acquire CNN, which is still ongoing, and everything. So they understand very, very well that they have a window of opportunity, and their window of opportunity is to completely subjugate and or displace the people of Palestine. And I think that they know that time is running out, because the world is catching on. Because the more that that media gets democratized and people talk to one another, it's not a sustainable lie. Like, people put two and two together. People are more cultured. They're more interested in what's going on. The barriers are less. English is an international language. It's becoming a type of lingua franca of the ummah, at least for dawah. And that's our second point. And that's actually really, really important. That there seems to be, from the folks I've talked to in Pakistan, the folks I've talked to in Malaysia and Indonesia, in Turkey and other places, there is becoming an international class of English-speaking Muslim intelligentsia that cares about the ummah and cares about trying to fit this all together and make it work. That's extremely promising. It's extremely promising because we're exchanging ideas, we're talking to one another, we're understanding each other's struggles, we're noticing the patterns. We've been able to put together the pattern of Hindutva influence in the United States, right there with Zionism. The Hindutva in the United States are maneuvering, they're following the Zionist playbook to a T. The big limitation for them in the United States is that they're not smart enough to have they don't have a Holocaust, first of all, and they haven't built out this post-Holocaust ideology of Judeo-Christian values. So there's no basis to it. It's really just the Hindutva folks in the US only succeed where people are not paying attention whatsoever. But as far as other people, it just goes to show that other people will use this playbook, but people are catching on and they're noticing these things. And the second point about overplaying their hand, that this is also why one of the mechanisms by which truth always prevails over falsehood. The first one is the technological aspect, that people will put two and two together and figure it out. The second is that the arrogant always overplay their hand. You look at Fir'aun. Fir'aun is a archetype with this. Fir'aun could have let Musa go, alayhi salam. He could have just let him go and taken the L. But he insisted on pursuing him to the Red Sea. He insisted on making a big spectacle of it. And because of that, it's the trap that they fall into that ultimately leads to their end. So the crying anti-Semite and crying blood libel and crying this and crying that, it's the boy who cried wolf. There's only a certain duration of time where people are going to care. And it's actually starting to flip that the actions, and Jews are noticing this as well, that the actions of the Zionists are actually making people anti-Semitic, because people are so sick and tired of being told that you can't criticize Israel, that makes you a bigot, that makes you a racist, that makes you this and that makes you that. The average American is more likely to be like, well, then screw it, fine, I'll be that. Like, I don't really care. If you want to call me an anti-Semite, that's their logic. Then I guess, okay. So they risk, in overplaying their hand, the erosion of any sympathy that they have for anything. And they are, listen, let's be real. Jews do experience bigotry and prejudice in the United States. But the weaponization of that fact by the Zionists is going to remove any sympathy for them whatsoever, along with political support or cover that they might have otherwise had. So absolutely, their arrogance. I think that Laura Loomer is an idiot for having gone after Sami Hamdi. You picked one of the most elegant people in the English language, one of the best public speakers, and you're going to target him, who's a political analyst. Did you see his interview on CNN? He killed it. It's a masterclass in public speaking, in media training, in everything. You couldn't be more arrogant and dumb if you're Laura Loomer and Amy Meckelberg, going after people such as myself, who there's no place to deport me to, going after people. They're going to make mistakes, and they will continue to make mistakes because, first of all, they're desperate. I think that they realize, again, that they have a very narrow window of time to win final solution in Palestine. And second, just because that's their makeup, they're because they're based on falsehood and they're based off of this tribalism, this rabid tribalism, they're so arrogant that they will continue to overstep. I mean, how can they deny, or how can they say, if you watch the CNN interview of Candace Owens, somebody claiming that it's a conspiracy to say that the Zionists are occupying the media or occupying the government, and in the same breath or the same news feed, you've got Netanyahu meeting with influencers, talking about buying TikTok and talking about talking to Musk in order to those two things. Like the average American, yes, like we have a reputation for not being too bright, but we're bright enough to put those two things together, and people aren't going to tolerate it.
No, it is the hubris of the Zionist class that has brought this to shame to them. It is the hubris of Laura Loomer that forced her to eat dog food, and Allah has made her face ugly and all that. It's quite clear.
She's paid CARE $120,000 because she sued them and lost. So she has actually paid. Yeah, we've done a bunch of research on her and Amy
She could
Meckelberg.
have done with that money, man. She could have fixed her face, maybe.
So she could done some mental health, because she's been instituted into mental asylums twice by her father. In fact, the FBI prohibits her from owning a firearm because she's mentally unstable.
Yeah, so, she if anything sounds like a school shooter to me.
I mean, that's the thing. And so we've got an episode coming out on Yaqeen Institute that goes into these individuals, and what you notice you notice patterns, and one of the patterns is actual criminality. Like people who have, I don't have I've never been accused of a crime. I've never had a criminal record in my life. The same with Omar Suleiman, the same with Sami Hamdi. Like, we're squeaky clean. Laura Loomer is somebody who is a criminal, right? She's somebody who has, at least if she doesn't actually have a criminal record herself, she's been banned from so many places because of how unhinged she is. Tommy Robinson, aka Stephen, whatever Yaxley his real name is, he attempted to illegally immigrate to the U.S. You can't make this stuff up. Dude's got a criminal record. He was denied a visa to coming to the U.S. because he's got a criminal record. Amy Meckelberg,
guy, didn't he molest a woman or something?
What's that?
Wood, the apologetics guy, David Wood or something. There's a lot of these guys.
I'm not sure who that is.
There's these apologetics guys.
The Christian guy. I'm not sure. Yeah. I don't really follow those guys. I'm more into the political
lane. I think you're better off for it, man. They're not too special.
I'm not trying to get down to the mud. But the thing is, these people are criminals. They actually have criminal records, and they're so anyway. If you live in a glass house, you shouldn't throw stones. It's it's going to come back to you. You're drawing more attention to yourself. People are going to figure it out.
Even with Barry Weiss and these kinds of characters, it's never been in my lifetime the case that I can directly reach out and touch them, the actual tormentors of the Muslim world. You couldn't identify them back in the day. You wouldn't know the names of the CEOs and the media tycoons taking over. It's like I can reach out and touch them, maybe with 1 degree of separation. I know them. Know them through X, Y, or Z, and I'm all the way over here in Pakistan.
Yeah.
So it's you're right. It's their hubris and their sort of tribalistic hubris, as well as their fleshiness, where they think that this is the only opportunity they have, as if this is what a strange prophecy that you have to make it happen within a decade, or otherwise the window closes off. What an absurd, Allah is like a personal deity now, and you can just sort of fix up the game, and then if you follow all the things that then the prophecy will come true, and then we will final solution the Palestinians. It is not just a hubris; it's also like a fleshiness. There was a reaction to Biden, and then before that to Obama in the Muslim community. It was more quiet when they elected Trump, when they voted for Trump the first time around, but the second time around, people were convinced that he's our guy, he's anti-war, he's going to be America first. So as a Muslim American or an American Muslim, I'm thinking that it's more than likely that he will end up settling the Gaza thing, because of one of the issues that Muslim Americans were voting on was Gaza, definitely top 3. It was up there. And for a lot of, I'm sure, younger Americans as well, non-Muslims and alike. But that ended up backfiring. Does that mean that Muslims will move on from here to the idea of a third party or third party candidates, or will there be a rebound to, vote blue no matter who? Because the Democrats are sort of
Right.
rubbing their hands, they're salivating at the mouth right now. They've just had a big win with Mamdani. Are they thinking that they
Mhm.
have the Muslim vote back just by default? Simply because
Yeah, I mean,
the fact that they
I don't
wouldn't
think,
ban something like CARE, or they wouldn't
right.
arrest and deport Sami Hamdi, for example.
I mean, and that's part of why the Zionists are actually gifting us a lot of opportunities here. They insist on continuing to make everything about Palestine and Gaza. Like there are forces within the Muslim community that would prefer that it just go away, in the sense, in a PR sense, right? That go back to the slow drip genocide of October 6th, 2023 and before, where this is not the issue that is demanding everybody's attention. In that scenario, then a vote blue no matter who attitude can quote unquote make sense, and people can push it because they'll say that, oh, this is the supposed lesson, though it's been proven false, of 9/11, that the Republicans want us all dead and that we have to be pushed to the Democrats because at least they don't. But I see most Muslims waking up from that, first of all, delusion. And two, I don't think that most Muslims voted Trump as anti-war or thought that Trump was actually anti-war. It was more that Trump is buyable. You can buy Trump. You can give Trump a multi-million-dollar private jet and put Al Jazeera on it, and maybe he'll, come off dancing the dubki, right? Like, it's possible that he has no shame and he's got no principles. So it's really just the 5% window, 3% window of opportunity that presented. So my experience, and I was pretty involved in the 2024 election and in the community, I didn't see very many people actually think that Trump was like some anti-war guy. Though it is important that on the right, they did perceive him that way. We're saying about non-Muslims that the MAGA movement perceived him as an anti-war candidate. And the fact that he has not delivered on those promises is extremely significant, because the MAGA movement has outgrown Trump. That now the MAGA movement is holding Trump accountable. And the biggest accelerator of this phenomenon was the Epstein files. The fact that Trump did not want to reveal them, the MAGA base felt very betrayed, and they felt now they're trying to hold Trump accountable, and they're raising a lot. Marjorie Taylor Greene is now positioning herself as the inheritor of the true MAGA movement and trying to, I think, put together a run in 2028. Let's just put it this way, and I'll call it now. If Marjorie Taylor Greene, as is today, this is what, November 20th, 2025. If Marjorie Taylor Greene, as today, runs against a Democrat that's like Kamala Harris or Joe Biden, Muslims must vote for Marjorie Taylor Greene, okay? Because Marjorie Taylor Greene has positioned, the hot take, book it, because she has actually positioned herself as the inheritor to the principles of the movement. That doesn't mean that we agree with everything, but she is extremely anti-foreign control. Yes, she's extremely anti-Israeli lobby, and that is strategically very, very important for us. So just to back up, I don't think that most Muslims were not stupid enough to think that Trump was anti-war. We did calculate that Trump is viable and not ideologically supportive of Israel. He's more transactionally supportive of Israel. That means that depending on the day that you catch him, depending on how he's feeling, depending on who he's pissed off at, you might be able to work with that. And that has been corroborated. That has been vindicated and validated, that he did force the ceasefire in January. Of course, Israel never adheres to its agreements. He did also force a second ceasefire. Again, there's problems with that. I don't think under a Biden or a Harris administration you're going to get even that. I don't think that you're going to get even those two ceasefires. You've got situations where Trump is, because Trump has an ego and he doesn't like to be portrayed as someone who is doing Netanyahu's bidding. So even with the way that the Iran war played out with Israel, like there were things that he said that were very critical of Netanyahu that are public. He even used some colorful language. We would have never heard any of that from a Democratic administration. But I think that the more significant thing is the revolt from within MAGA and the revolt within the right. You look at how Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson and Fuentes and all these guys are, I don't think that you would see such a revolt on the right if a Democrat were in power. If a Democrat were in power, the right would have consolidated, and who knows upon what they would have consolidated. Now you've got so much attention on the influence of Israel, the assassination of Charlie Kirk, another accelerant. Now people are, Candace Owens, every single day I'm watching. I never thought I'd be following like everything Candace Owens puts out. Every week, she is uncovering and exposing more of how much control Israel and their agents have over the U.S. political and legal system, and it is doing a lot to erode their power and their credibility. So I don't think that you get that with a Democratic administration. What the Muslim community has to learn, and slowly we are learning it, is that politics. It was what we said off camera before we started recording, that we don't understand how it works. We think that if we just ingratiate ourselves to one party or the other, one politician or another, when they get in power, they're going to do us favors. That is not how it works. You have to have leverage and you have to negotiate. And so what we're slowly coming to, and this is the importance of the Mamdani campaign, that we have proof of concept now ahead of the 2026 midterm elections that are going to be so extremely influential and important as to where these two parties are going. Where's the Democratic Party going? Where's the Republican Party going? The midterm election in 2026, especially the primaries, is going to really, really influence that. The Democrats have a decision to make. Are they going to keep on giving us the same trash candidates that are supportive of Israel and only give us lip service? If Mamdani proved that you can be pro-Palestine and get elected. He proved that you can snub the Israeli lobby and get elected. Even if some people are upset about some backtracking stuff he's done or whatever, he's not perfect on Palestine. Like don't get it twisted. But how he was perceived, the fact that he was electable in New York City of all places, it will be very, very interesting to see how the midterm elections play out. If the Democrats learn that, hey, we don't have to be bullied by the AIPAC lobby or by the Israeli lobby, that we can actually put candidates that are pro-Palestine or even just have other priorities, and they will win. That will be a tremendous step of progress for the Muslim American community, because now that party is shifting. And if the same thing on the Republican side, if the Republicans start to get more Thomas Massey's, more Marjorie Taylor Greenes, more people who are like explicitly against the Israeli lobby and foreign control and foreign interests, then this will be, I think, our main duty. I think that I see our main responsibility as American Muslims is to cut the ties that join the United States and Israel. That's our one leverage point. We are here. We happen to be here in this country. For whatever reason, Allah brought us here at different times and from different places. And the fact that he brought us here into the one country that makes the genocide possible, that makes the apartheid possible, that is our duty. Our duty is not to just get rich or to just focus on the dunya or to have our little cultural clubs or whatever. I see our duty as fundamentally to stop the U.S. support for the occupation and then let history take its course from there.
You want America to be America and the values that it espouses. It would be
I want an even playing field. I don't want to have to, if I want to influence policy or influence a politician here, I don't want to have to go up against a politician that is funded by a foreign government. That is just an unequal playing field. Like, I would much rather it be a situation where I have to just go do dawah to my neighbors and convince them. I can convince my neighbors. I believe that Islam has a lot to offer and that, we can put on a good face and represent ourselves pretty well. But if we're being constantly bombarded by foreign powers that are, spreading false news and propaganda and all of these things, then that makes our job like 100 times more difficult than it has to be.
Right, fair enough. I mean, this time around, you saw that J.D. Vance, for example, in his visit to Israel, did not, go to the wall, didn't wear the little hat. Even E. Michael Jones, the prominent, very controversial Catholic academic, he was very proudly touting this on some Muslim program the other day. I forget which program, that, the Vance didn't go to the wall because obviously he's a Catholic and he was trying to. And Thomas Massey, again, he's a bit backtracking. He's backtracking a bit and he's a bit softer on Israel now. But people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, for example, like you said, if she remains, ceteris paribus, against one of these Kamala types, we have to vote for her. That makes sense to me. So what Imam Tom is actually saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that this time around the Muslim vote is a wild card. We are going to see, we're going to leverage who is going to give most of the things as best as possible in terms of the line of best fit, which candidate is going to give the Muslim community in America the things they want. And top priority of that is to cut off the American empire from facilitating this brutal occupation in Palestine.
Absolutely. I would say even that's what politics has to be, that our relationship to politics has to be who's going to give us the best deal, right? And waiting and see who's like, what are you offering and what are you offering? Just imagine you're at the bazaar, right? Who's going to give me the best offer? And we take the best offer. That transactional type of politics makes sense. The identity politics, people tricking us, having some tenuous relationship to the Muslim community or whatever.
So you don't
been
think
so many
that
times
having
by
the
that.
first openly binary queer, disabled and Somali whatever Imam would be the next best thing?
No, absolutely not. I mean, that's the thing. It's like we have to be about policy and results, not about optics, not about symbol, right?
Now, what if we got you a TV show though that nobody watched?
Why would I want a TV show?
Like the DEI TV shows that they gave us, the Democrats.
No. That's useless. Absolutely useless. And that's the thing.
Oh.
And that's what they'll always do. That's what we get with the Democrats. The Democrats give us symbolic victories to shut us up. But they don't actually give us policies that are going to stop us from getting killed.
Right.
They have the same policies that Republicans do. They just have a smile on their faces while they do it. Obama was very bad for the Muslim community as far as surveillance, of course, drones. He created the whole precedent of droning with complete
American
impunity.
citizens.
Even American citizens and their children, right? Like also American citizens. But it's like, so people need to wake up, and part of that is education.